can't hear you guys. Thank you so much. Over to you, Nalin.
Thanks very much, Shiny, and good morning to you all for having, all of you braved the traffic and got here this morning, just like Dinesh has. So, I don't think you can get a better panel than this to talk about growth in India in the intelligence age. Both of the panelists, both Sanjeev and Dinesh, were pioneers of the online era in India. They've played a seminal role in creating the Indian online economy and in its incipient stage. They both became startup founders at a time when it was not fashionable. They both gave up.
It was highly fashionable.
And I think Shiny started off with a very optimistic note about the India story. Let me try and flip the coin a little bit and to start this conversation, which is that we are at this moment, in a once in a 50-year kind of moment geopolitically. We see what's happening with Trump, with the tariff wars, in the global economic system as it stands. We're seeing what's happening in the markets. So it's a time of great uncertainty. So let me put it to you, Sanjeev, to start with, that how do you see India at the moment, how stable or how precarious we are?
Yeah, I think compared to what's going on in the rest of the world, we are probably an oasis of peace and stability. I just hope we stay that way. Although markets are turbulent, public markets are turbulent, I think, but that's a lot of it is due to international factors. Right? With foreign money perhaps ebbing a bit from public markets in India, and that's causing a correction in valuations. But if you ignore that, I think we are probably better off than most other countries. Of course, not as good as we were maybe 2-3 years ago, but definitely better off than most other countries. But wait and watch is what I'd say, because let's see how the global situation, how the US situation pans out. Because there are new things happening every day, and tariffs and tariff wars and bluster and bullying and and all of it on TV, so let's see.
Dinesh, your perspective on this?
See, I cannot comment on the what's happening globally, and nobody can be immune to what happens around you. But internally, I think as India, last 25 years have been very, very strong, and I think next 25 years are going to be even stronger because of the demographic that we have, because of the education, because of the number of engineers that we produce, because of the new manufacturing which is called software. We are the de facto manufacturer of the software in the world. Whatever little bit of threat was there about 10 years ago from China or Russia, nobody is going to buy software from them. So I guess for India, it is a great position to be in. Let's see how much we can capitalize on that and how we use this, our larger demographic, which is the population, how do we employ them locally here? Because that's a bigger challenge with so many people coming into the job. Fortunately, for the last 25 years, the IT, BPO, banking, telecom, these sectors have absorbed a lot of entry-level white-collar jobs. But given the AI, how it is going to fan out, and what are we going to do? Either we are going to move massively towards manufacturing and things like that, because the internal consumption of the sort for the IT, BPO, banking, telecom, those kind of sectors, I think is peaking away. So where are we going to employ millions of more graduates that are coming out every month, every year? That's a challenge to be solved. Otherwise, I think we are in a best situation, whatever I can think
of. So
you're
largely optimistic on the fundamental of the India economic story. So just hold that thought. I mean, on this question of jobs and AI, from a Naukri.com, you look at a lot of things on that. How is AI going to impact jobs, and particularly white-collar jobs?
I think you got to slice it vertical by vertical, sector by sector, level by level, nature of job. So as of now, we are not seeing any large-scale sackings. There may be some minor sort of rationalizing here and there, but वो large scale cycling नहीं हुई है, and which did, so but we always say wait and watch. Naukri is growing reasonably well. It's picked up from 3 or 4 quarters ago, and that's always a good sign. Our job seeker index is doing all right, and that's also a good sign. But I think, in our startup investing piece, we are seeing a very large number of AI startups. And some of that stuff is around call center in a box, voice bot, right? Which basically means call center agents instead of people. So the voice bot is a call center agent. And some of that stuff is pretty good. You can't make out you're not talking to a machine. Or you're not talking, you can't make out you're not talking to a human being and you're talking to a machine. It's pretty intelligent. Now that thing has a potential of at least impairing the growth in employment in the call center industry going forward. Let's see how it pans out, how it rolls out. We're still watching. But there will be some shift in the nature of jobs being on offer to freshers. Definitely in call center and sales. Maybe even in servicing. Maybe even in loan collection. Yeah. We are seeing the beginnings of some of that.
So when this kind of disruption happened, and we were talking about this just before we came on stage, while certain jobs get taken away, also new kinds of jobs are created, but it's not the same kinds of people, right? I mean,
yeah. So see, the thing is, a good macro often hides some pain points in the micro. Because if new jobs are created, but those jobs, are taken by people who are not the same as the people who have lost their jobs, that inevitably creates challenges if it's happening on a large scale. Because when I lose my job, I'm unhappy, and I blame the government. But when I get a job, I attribute to myself, I'm good, I deserve it, so I got it. I don't say thank you to the government.
So while the AI story is playing out, we're still at the very early stage of that. But as a wider economy, you understand the heartbeat of MSMEs with India Mart more than most people. What are the changes we need to do at an ease of business from an ease of business doing perspective, and also in terms of GST reforms, tax structures, all of that, to remain competitive, to take advantage of what's happening given the huge flux around us globally?
See, all these digital public infrastructure, the GST, it has actually helped the small and medium enterprises, but it has not helped the micro enterprises. And the micro enterprises definition has also been up to, I think now, 10 crore rupees. So above 5-10 crore rupees, I think people are really reaping the benefits of formalization, reaping the benefits of digital public infrastructure, reaping the benefits of premiumization, and also becoming slowly competitive on the global stage. However, when it comes to the micro enterprises, which is the 90% of the enterprises, that is where the challenge is, making it easier to do business, and by not having them to do the e-way bill or e-invoicing.
Compliance cost remains very high and very difficult.
But then at the same time, the parallel economy starts to flourish. Now, that piece needs to be solved. I think one big item that has been solved in this particular budget is to take a leap of faith of like 12 lakh rupees, up to 12 lakh rupees. I'm sure maybe up to 10 lakh rupees or so, it will be good for even the proprietorship businesses, because up to 12 lakh rupees is for the salaried employees and all that. So I think that will ease up a lot of it, but still it might be a challenge that it can create a lot of parallel economy in the micro segment. So that's where we need to solve, and it's a difficult problem to solve, because for them even 1% of tax or 5% of tax or 1% of compliance burden or 5% of the compliance burden is a deterrent for them to move to a formalized economy. And so for now, I think the government has decided that they should focus on small and medium, and probably let the less than 1 lakh rupees salaried guys, and let the 1 lakh rupees income business guys to kind of let them do whatever they want. But that will further create challenges, whether they will be able to create jobs or not, whether they will be able to create survive or not. So it's a tricky business. If you just focus on the top 10%, what is going to happen to the bottom 90%?
So, you mentioned at the beginning of your comments, the previous question, what's happening with China, people want to move here. Now, this China plus one strategy hasn't necessarily worked as well as a lot of people thought. So what do we need to do to actually get the business which is coming out of there? Because a lot of it is not coming here to India.
I think, look, manufacturing takes time. So, if we are thinking that China plus one 2 साल में हो जाएगा, 2 साल में नहीं होगा, 10 साल में होगा. So our expectations need to be calibrated. Now, naturally, you have to make it easier for people to see. Manufacturing is hard. When I was in college, I studied economics. Roughly about 22%, I think, of the GDP was from services. Ab 60% ho gaya hai. Now, why has services grown so fast? It's because of ease of doing business. Because it was easier to do service industry. It was less capex intensive. There was service tax came in the early 90s. Whereas excise has been there from the get-go, right? So basically, ease of doing business promotes growth. So I think the most significant thing that the government has spoken about in the last, apart from, of course, the fund of funds for startups, which I completely endorse, is this deregulation commission, which the PM spoke about. And now, if that actually happens and it is actually what it wants to do is done, I think deregulation alone can add 2-3% to the GDP growth every year within 3 years.
2-3%.
Yeah. And deregulation will make manufacturing easier. This Inspector Raj has got to be dismantled if you want manufacturing. And Inspector Raj exists 80-90% at the state government level, not at the central government level.
So, do you think we need an Indian version of Doge, like with Elon Musk in the White House?
Why not? I mean, any large organization, any large corporate also need a department of efficiency, department of re-engineering. Anytime, once in 5 years, once in 10 years, if you do a lot of re-engineering from a fresh mindset, and I think you can always get 10 to 20% efficiencies, and maybe even larger in a government setup. To some extent, I think the Niti Ayogs of the world and the digital public infrastructures have already done a good job so far. Government, if I remember correctly, has not been hiring as aggressively as in 60s and 70s and 90s. I think the most of the newer appointments are temporary appointments. However, is there a room for improvement? Can there be room for 50% improvement? I don't know. But there is always a room for 20% improvement. I have seen in my own company. So I'm sure government would have that.
Sanjeev,
I don't
Indian
think you
Doge?
need the kind of mindless behavior that we are seeing, at least from outside what's going on in the US. First fire 500 people, then realize, oh, kya kar diya? That's stupid. Okay, so I disagree entirely. I think you need deregulation, you don't need Doge.
You have also talked about publicly in the past about America turning into some kind of a dystopia with, and also talked about the CEOs should not be doing this half the time and doing the because
I had said that you can't have a government that's run by a private sector company. Yeah. We've seen the impact of that 300 years ago in India. This is what I tweeted. And, if there's a guy doing 2 jobs, partly he's a minister in the government and partly he's running his own company 3 days a week, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it helps.
So, given
there's a clear conflict of interest.
So, given the current uncertainty in where the markets are, for example, right now. Last year, we had a fairly large number of IPOs in this country. There is I think, a glide path now to about 15, 20 companies which are startups which are lined up for IPOs. Do you think the current environment is going to impact that at the moment, or slow it down, the funding environment?
Yes, it will. I mean, down markets, not good for IPOs. You don't get the kind of demand. Certainly valuations at IPO will be, people have to temper the expectations. And I think people will probably be better off delaying most IPOs until such time as the market settle, let the dust settle. You know, if there's a 3, 4, 5% correction every couple of weeks, that's not a good environment to go public in. We went public in 2006, right? And there was turmoil in the market in a few months before that, but then it settled down. So we went public when the Sensex was 13,000 headed north, right? 3 months before that, it was 13,000 headed south, okay? So when the market headed south, it's not a good time to go public. Market headed north, no matter what the level is, the absolute level doesn't matter. If it's headed north, it's a good time to go public.
You're saying something very critical. What's your view on the environment that startups are operating in at the moment?
Earlier, people were raising money in IPOs. Nowadays, 75% of the IPOs are OFS. So I really don't...
OFS means offer for sale.
Offer for sale means the money is not going to come into the company. For example, IndiaMart IPO was 100% offer for sales. We did raise money, but after 2 years of the IPO. So what I'm saying is, it's just become an exit listing scenario or exit scenario. The good points what Sanjeev has made is that, God forbid, if the markets are heading south immediately post your IPO, half of the blame will come on you also. So try avoiding that situation, but nobody can predict. So any time to go to the market is good market. If you are not worried about the immediate cashing in at the time of IPO, because most of the wealth is created for the employees, for the promoters, for the shareholders, 10 years post the IPO, 5 years post the IPO. I mean, measuring something 10 months post the IPO.
Well, let me ask you a question. No, I've forgotten what the market was like when you went public. But see, 3 months or 4 months after you went public, was your share price above your IPO price?
Yeah, my share price has always
Exactly.
been above the IPO.
Exactly. So the point is that the shareholders who come in, and usually there's retail shareholders, HNIs, and they are institutions. And if they don't see a gain after participating in the IPO, the word of mouth is terrible, your reputation is mud, and people are unhappy.
I mean, you've had 2 very successful investments in Zomato and in PB Fintech. And so in terms of exit plans for investors, that will kind of, one has to be a bit cautious at the moment.
No, I would say that if you are a founder, if you are a management team, and you're thinking of going public, you can go public, but temper your expectations and valuation. It's important that your share price is, for the next few months, post-going listing, it's useful and important that it's above the IPO price.
That's exactly what I meant. You know, let's not be optimizing the entry point. Let's just say that we need to cross the bridge and leave some money on the table.
Right.
Because if you try and optimize too much on the entry point, which happened incidentally in 2021 and 2022 IPOs, most of those IPOs are running behind their IPO price, which is not a good thing.
So I want to just broad-base this conversation to the wider economy from IPOs. And what do you think, where do you think are the levers of growth right now with Tier 2, Tier 3 India, rural India? What's different today compared to when you were starting up your businesses?
I quit my job and became an entrepreneur in 1990. And from 90 to 97, we were doing small businesses, maybe 10, 15 different small ideas, one after the other. 97 is when we launched Naukri, which is when the internet came, we launched Naukri. It took 7 years of drifting, then launched an internet business, and that became something to pursue. So we were just exploring and we were figuring it out, and we weren't bothered about market size, right? Because market analysis, market size is something, MBAs do, right? In large corporations. I'm also an MBA, but I was running a tiny business out of the servant quarter. So मेरे को market size से फर्क नहीं पड़ता था. Can I make my sale this month? If I can make my sale this month, then तनख्वाह निकल जाएगी employees की. And that was all we were bothered about then. You get into formal planning and stuff only after you raise venture capital. That's because now you are accountable to others. So we raised venture capital after 10 years from ICICI Venture in the year 2000, which is when we got into formal planning, targets, commitments, growth, exit, कैसे करना है, क्या करना है, क्यों करना है, Until then we were a tiny company, we were, as Dinesh put it, informal sector.
So,
we were micro. So in the year 2000, March 2000 ending, our turnover was 36 lakhs in the year, 3 lakhs a month. We were breaking even because I wasn't taking a salary. Okay. April 2000 is when we raised venture capital. The moment we raised venture capital, we were accountable to shareholders.
In terms of when you see how the economy is changing at the moment, how do you see the fulcrum shifting to tier 2, tier 3 towns in rural India compared to urban India at the moment?
I think a lot has already changed, especially post the smartphone, or I call that mobile computer. Post the mobile computer availability and distribution rails and everything available with the digital public infrastructure and everything, a lot of tier 2, tier 3 has come very equal to tier 1 in terms of the access to information, in terms of access to news, access to entertainment, access to even shopping quite a bit. However, there is almost 80% of the population which is living in tier 2, tier 3. Probably not and should not be using only English or the language. Thanks to the mobile computer, again, now you can use voice technology. Now you can do video searches and video information, audio searches and audio information, which was not possible so easily in the desktop computer or laptop computers. So I guess a lot of growth has to come from there. But I keep going back to the my original question. In 90s or late 90s, we found this 4 or 5 big sectors. One was IT, second was BPO call center, third was banking, fourth was telecom, fifth was insurance, seventh was automobile. I think we have reached to a certain level of penetration in each one of them. And many of those are, in fact, getting more efficiency by use of technology now, because bankings do not require that many people now. A lot of banking is happening online. A lot of telecom is happening online. So I guess we need to solve for that challenge. What is our next growth engine? Where is the employment going to come from? And if that is solved, I don't think we need to worry a lot about tier 2, tier 3. Each one of us, that will be taken care. As the infra will be taken care and everything else would be taken care. But in the next 5 years, this challenge is going to become bigger and bigger.
Right. So when we talk about when marketers think of tier 1, 2, 3, and we have these distinctions in our head, are these distinctions real, or are they becoming more facile now?
See, what I think is that what the smartphone has done, what the internet has done, what social media has done, and prior to that what TV did, was that the aspirations and expectations of people, whether you're in rural India, urban India, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, the aspirations and expectations are converging, right? They are similar. Okay? Now, however, the economic opportunity may or may not be similar, right? And that is a challenge in my view. How do you get the economic opportunity to, also be higher in rural India, in small town India? And I think that is what similar to what Dinesh was referring to, that can you find your next growth engine for getting people to participate in the economic opportunity, even if you're not in the top 10 cities or top 20 cities.
So, coming back to AI, there's been a lot of debate in the last few weeks on AI sovereignty. This whole debate whether India should invest in LLMs or build on applications, use cases like Nandan has argued, for example. And there is another counter view which says no, we should really focus on the core tech. What is your view on this?
See, obviously applications are low-hanging fruit, and right now a large number of people in India are doing them. We're seeing startups every day. But the truth is, this strategically as a country, you do need your own. You do need Indian foundational models. You do need access to hardware, to chips, to GPUs. Which are not restricted. And of course, I'm hoping that as R&D continues and as as companies compete even in the US, there will be more and more companies making GPUs which are substitute for NVIDIA.
Bring the cost down.
And bring the availability up. Cost you can afford. Right now, the export is restricted. So you need first availability, then you talk about cost. Because you can't really build foundational models if you don't have access to GPUs. And what DeepSeek has done is that they have somehow got access to GPUs, and people are wondering how they got it. And certainly $6 billion looks like an underestimate to build DeepSeek, but we don't really know. But the point is, you need foundational models coming out of places other than a few companies in the US, and you need availability of GPUs everywhere. Because ultimately, look, AI and foundational models and apps, are the new oil. And if you get left behind in this, then I think as a country we'll have a problem.
Dinesh, your perspective?
See, I go beyond only AI a foundation model. I think given the maturity as a tech population and as a tech evolution that we have had over the last 30, 40, 50 years, I think why only talk about our own LLM? Why not our own CPU? Why not our own silicon? Why not our own operating system? Why not our own payment network like Master and Visa have done in the world? Can RuPay become the parallel payment network in the world? Can UPI become the parallel payment network in the world? So I would say we should invest at the both spectrums of the, and there are different talent which is available for different kind of things. So why not global SaaS? Why not Indian SaaS? Why not customized application software? Why not device drivers and network layers and things like that? Why not telecom equipment and towers? Why should we be dependent on only Huawei and Nokias of the world? Why not have another, the company that I worked, the Center for Development of Telematics, to do your own digital telephony? So I would say these investments today do not require, each one of them would not require $1 billion or more. And I would suggest that the government should look at this dividend that we have delivered in the past 30, 40 years in terms of the IT and telecom and finance and BFSI and all that. We should invest heavily around multiple of these. Whether it is creating your own payment network or whether it is creating your own.
You're making a fascinating point because soon after the Russia-Ukraine war started and the Americans shut down SWIFT for Russia. I was given. I heard from we understood from from government officials in Delhi that the number of direct government requests for understanding more about UPI that the Indian government started getting went up by multiples because people said, okay, now we need to start talking about parallel paying system because SWIFT can be shut down anytime.
No, that's absolutely true. So which is why, all of these strategic resources, these strategic digital resources, these platforms, strategic platforms, you need to make sure that you are not beholden to somebody else as a nation, and there's always a credible option domestically.
So on that note, should we open it up to the audience, and if there are any questions for Sanjeev or Dinesh? Yes. Can we get a mic to the gentleman?
Hi. Good morning. I have two questions. One, rather than a sweeping statement like next 25 years will be greater than last 25, as Keynes said that...
He said that, not me.
Yeah. So, like Keynes said, in the long term, we are all dead. Let's talk about the short term. So, and what Sir said about like a lot of international pressure. But you know, today our big banks like Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank are on P of 4.5, and IPOs are happening at a price book value of 10x or 1400 Ps. Isn't that corruption and greed, you know? And even SEBI allowing such things. But I want to ask more about macroeconomic environment in the near future.
In the near future. So look, the truth is we don't in the company do a lot of macro analysis for our decision making in the economy. We figure out what's happening in our business, what can happen, what is likely to happen, but most of all, we focus a lot on product innovation to drive growth. And for example, we've got about 100 people working at InfoEdge on AI. And this has happened over the last 3 or 4 years. And we began to do stuff around AI back in 2008-9, except we didn't know it was called AI, so we didn't call it AI. And now we realize that what we were doing was AI. Not Gen AI, but machine learning and algorithms and models like that. Gen AI came much later. When Gen AI came, we began to add a lot of engineers. We built this strong capability. And I was reviewing for the last quarter's analyst call. Agar sawal aa gaya, to what do we say? And I was given a list of 22 projects and product features that are now powered by AI in Naukri. Existing product, existing platform, existing clients. The product is working better. There are new features. There are new products there within that. So we focus a lot on innovation, and that's how we do it. Now, are we impacted by macro? Yes. Therefore, do we say, yeah, IT industry, IT is about 40-45% of our revenue. IT industry, kya ho raha hai? We try and figure it out, but the truth is we can't influence it. We simply, we bide our time, right? And meanwhile, we keep innovating. So I think what a tech company like ours does and should be doing is keep on innovating. Baki, India, if it's growing at 6%, it's okay. Start growing at 8% is fantastic. If it grows at 4%, you have a problem. That's
Dinesh,
not
you want to add to this?
Yeah, I guess, I continue to believe that next 25 years would be better than the past 25 years. It has always proven that every decade has done better than the previous decade. Whether, sarkarein aayenge jayenge in terms of Atal ji ki bhasha mein. Lekin with the demographic thing, I think we have done better than in the last 4 decades of my adulthood. I have seen things only improve decade after decade. Technology is helping us improve. Education is helping us improve. Communication is helping us improve. Information is helping us improve. And it is forcing the political and bureaucracy and the judiciary to align with the youth and with the aspirations of the youth.
You know what you're saying, just coming to you, sir, you know what you're saying aligns a lot with a lot of survey data, which says that Indians remain fundamentally much more optimistic about the future compared to those in Europe or in North America. You ask the same question, will your next 5 years be more better than before? The answer normally is no, it won't be. And if you're in Europe or North America, but here it is. So that's
because
also
of the demographic, because of the education, because of the our per capita incomes are very small. So I think hope is better, and see, somebody at 50,000 per capita income says, I will not improve by 1%. Somebody at $10,000 per capita income says, I will improve by 50%. He only reaches 15,000, but still feels more happier.
The question is,
I just add to that. See, you see, I began working in 1984, okay, straight out of college. And I'm an advertising guy. I began my career in advertising. First 3 years were in Lintes. Of course, there was no digital then. There was no tech then. It was, print and outdoor and film and some television and radio, right? But if I look back on 84 and I compare it to now, 40 saal mein, I think there has been a sea change in the Indian business environment and the business landscape, okay? And a lot of this change has been driven by companies and industries that did not exist or barely existed in 84. Right? So the IT services sector barely existed. There was no internet, there was no private sector telephone, there was no mobile telephony, there was no apps, there was no private sector airlines, there was no private sector insurance, there was no private sector banks. Right? Maruti had just been launched 2 years ago. Okay? So a lot of this stuff has been driven, investment, optimism, growth, employment, has been driven by new companies, new sectors. So I am actually as optimistic as him, that it is the churn in the economy that will create opportunities, create industries, and drive growth forward. Tata Steel, the Indian steel industry must, I don't know, maybe employs a couple of lakh people. That's less than what it employed when I finished college in 84, because they've got into efficiency consolidation. Zomato has about 5 lakh riders, all in the last 6 years. Now you may say, what kind of job is that? It's because they don't get AI jobs that they're doing this, okay? And at least they're getting a livelihood, right? So startups create opportunities which are rapid and fast. And that's what's going to happen. Infosys and HCL and Wipro and what was they were startups in 84. They're mammoth companies now. They have lakhs of employees. Look at the market cap. Look at the brand they've built. Look at the turnover. So I think it's, and all of this happened because of enterprise, talent, technology, risk capital, and enabling regulation. 5 things. And of course, a largest market domestically. So I think I'm optimistic too. In the long run, short run, there will always be problems in India because, kabhi kuch hoga, but Indian entrepreneurs will find a way forward.
which question there, sir? Just one second.
Yeah, 2 questions. So,
No, listen, I don't decide stock price. The market decides that. Okay? And I'm not going to, and that is very often decided by liquidity. Very often growth is valued more than anything else. So I don't decide the stock price either of any company.
okay,
Need a question from that corner.
2 pointed questions. So one is, growth is happening. First, great discussion. Great points. Growth is happening, but growth is happening across the world, and quite a few of the innovations that are happening in US. So I'm just now referring to China and 2 points over there. So Chinese government 5 years back, they identified that there are 3 sectors which are important for China, which will make them different from other countries. One was EV, other was solar panels, and third was AI. And government put regulations in place which were very favorable. Then they got entrepreneurs to work on that, and now they are leaders in that. One. So what are the things which India said, okay, these are only Indian, we focused on this and we are the best in the world? Question number 1. Question number 2, DeepSeek thought everything from scratch. They said, why so many GPUs are needed? Not needed. And for LLMs, they said, we don't need to call LLM, full LLM for each query. We'll only call a specific one for that particular. So finance, only finance is called, right? Or for manufacturing, only manufacturing is called. That's why the energy spent is less. The question is, India is a land of jugaad. India has so many AI engineers. Why can't we think of things like DeepSeek to come out with models which are as good as US,
take that
LLMs as good as US. Yeah.
So you know, I think we don't really know how DeepSeek was done, how many GPUs were used, where they came from. It's no, one second, right? We don't really know. We are assuming a lot of things. There's a lot of speculation. Is there work going on one or two Indian LLMs? I believe there is, right? And I believe some of it may see the light of day in the next couple of years. Okay. Now, how good will it be and how useful will it be? We don't know until it is launched. But let's wait and watch. And also, DeepSeek, I'm told. So several of our startups have begun to use DeepSeek, the ones we invested, and because it's cheaper. And not because it's better. Okay, it's cheaper. Now, it's still being assessed as to what it's good at and what it's not so good at. It's early days yet. But I'm told the primary driver for the startups we invested in to use DeepSeek is the cost and not anything else. I don't know, Dinesh, do you have a view on this?
I mean, I don't want to get into these debates. One day I was sitting with a Chinese investor. He said, why can't China produce Satya Nadella and why can't China produce all the CEOs Indian CEOs that we have had heading American companies, Indra Nooyi and so I guess it's a matter of time that we'll catch up to each other. It's neither, there's nothing that we can't do, there's nothing that they can't do. It's just a matter of time. You are right, we should be focusing. We should be focusing on many things. We should be focusing on few things. But that's a debate over the chai, better off.
Right.
I don't think we can get anything out of that.
Right. Thank you. On that note, let's give these two gentlemen a big hand, ladies and gentlemen, and for being so forthright and for a great discussion. We are completely out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can we hear it one more time, ladies and gentlemen, for our incredible speakers, the veterans of the industry themselves right here. If I could request you to please step forward for a group photograph. If I could request all of you to please kindly step forward for a quick group photograph.